You know, there's so many great waifus to talk about in fiction. You got the goddess waifu, the cat waifu, the spider waifu. Hell, you even have thick fairy waifus. You have all these different types. So imagine my surprise when I look in the comments and I see some of y'all want to talk about goblin waifus, of all things. And it's not like it's that shocking, because we all have our favorite waifus. However, in myth and in most stories, goblins are all male. And you know, there's also this small lingering fact of, you know, let me see if I can remember what it is. Hold up, let me see. Oh, here it is. They're evil! Wake your ass up. Evil! That's right, bitch, you work for me now. Anyways, in most stories, and even in most games and anime, goblins are depicted as the scum of the earth. They're short, they're mischievous, they steal, they kill. They're annoying, they play pranks on people. In mythology, they would use pots and pans at night to wake people up. And they would even snatch night clothes off the bodies of sleeping people. Just all in all, straight menaces to society. They're also all depicted as very, very ugly. And even when there are female goblins, like in Dungeons and Dragons, they're usually never seen or talked about, ever. But of course, then there's anime.
Damn!
So yeah, anime definitely has the best depiction of Goblin Woman. However, this does not mean they're safe to smash. Just because you put tits on something doesn't make it better. It makes it more appealing for simps, and you, viewer, are better than that. You're on the type of guy that will lust after a woman only for her huge, voluptuous titties. Oh no, that's only one of the reasons. After, before, and while you're doing the do, you want to make sure nothing bad's gonna happen. Or more or less, you want to make sure you can survive it. Now, goblins aren't super strong or super fast. Some depictions of them in games may have higher agility than humans, but that's nothing too special. So what is there really to fear when we're trying to mate with a goblin waifu? To find this out, I had to research both male and female goblins. And I researched the characteristics of goblins in all genres. And by doing this, I found that if there are all male goblins in a universe, and no female goblins, that eventually to reproduce and mate, they'll find women of almost any species, take them back to the grotto or cave, and just do the do. Now, this isn't true for all universes, because if female and male goblins do exist in the same universe, it's very likely they'll just reproduce with each other. But when the opposite sex doesn't exist, they tend to have to get creative. Now, the real question here is, would the female goblins do the same thing as the male goblins if the male goblins did not exist in their universe? Or more or less, that they just weren't available in their universe? Now, this isn't what I would call factual information, so take this with a big grain of salt. The only source of information I could find for all female goblins, and rarely or either no males, was the Peter Grill anime. Now, this anime is an ecchi comedy, so it's very, very entertaining, I would have to say, yeah. But it's not meant to be taken seriously. However, there was an episode where all female goblin horde were looking for men because they were in heat. And I believe they said they were in heat because of the queen goblin's pheromones. But the why really isn't as important as the how in this context. Because low-key, these female goblins were almost just as bad or worse than the goblins in Goblin Slayer. You know, when it came to getting freaky. Now for this universe, this is good and bad. And I'll tell you why. In this universe and in this horde of goblins, there's a hobgoblin named Gubuko, who is definitely 100% a 10. Okay, no debating that. There are no cons in smashing her at all. And there's even two other hobgoblins, which I don't know the name of, but they are also 10s. And to top it all off, in this episode, they were extremely horny and ready to mate with almost any male. However, they were not alone. A great majority of all the other goblin women were ugly as hell. And yes, I know, debatable. But I have to doubt that most men want a horde of ugly women running after them trying to, do the do. So, huge con, unless you're just that desperate. Now, while there is no cons for Gubuko, I have to point out, like I said before, that she is a hobgoblin. And in myth, hobgoblins were said to be especially wicked and mischievous. So other than Gubuko, you probably wouldn't want to smash a hobgoblin, just for your own personal safety, because they are supposed to be worse than regular goblins. Now, as far as Gubuko herself, she's nothing like a normal hobgoblin. She looks mostly human besides her green skin and pointy ears. And she's also low-key a muscle mommy. So yeah, no one's turning that down. Moving on! We have to talk about the goblin waifus. In the anime, that time I got reincarnated as a slime. Now in this anime, there are both male and female goblins. And in the first couple of episodes, they start out as just normal looking goblins. Short and not very attractive. However, in this universe, when a monster is given a name, they can evolve and become a lot stronger. And apparently this only happens in this universe when the person given the name is extremely powerful. So when our main character Rimuru decided to name these goblins, one of the goblin females went from looking like this, to this, and then to this. Yeah, I know, evolution and power levels in this anime are insane. Anyways, this is Gabuwa. She's a background character in the reincarnated as a slime anime. And in her current form, she should be an ogre, not a goblin. But that's not important for this video. What's more important is the fact that she was a goblin. That's insane. As you can probably already tell, she has no cons. But then again, not much is known about her besides the fact that she loves Benimaru. She's his right-hand woman and the captain of his personal guard, Kiranai. I may honestly have to bring this character up again if we start talking about ogres in another video. But until then, moving on. We talked about most of the cons that goblins have except for their height. Now hear me out, because I know most guys don't care about height at all. However, these same men probably want to date a little person. And of course, nothing's wrong being a little person, but everybody has a preference. The estimated height for a goblin will be around 3 to 4 feet tall. And the average height of a little person would be 2'8" to 4'8" feet tall. So generally, a goblin would be around the height of a person with dwarfism or a little person. Now again, this depends only on preference, because little people need love too. And do not take that out of context, because you know what I mean. I have to also add that this con doesn't apply to hobgoblins. Hobgoblins like Goblin are estimated to be around 5 to 6 feet tall. And even though that's great for a sexy female hobgoblin, when looking at it at a monster perspective, that's honestly kind of horrifying. Normal goblins are already a huge threat in groups. Making them bigger would just make them more powerful in general. So you're not really the type of monster you want to find in a cave, because you'll definitely more likely be surrounded, and they'll likely jump you, scuff your Jordans, take your Jordans, and then take your innocence. Remember, they're not all 10, so this is likely to traumatize you, unless you're just that desperate. Oh, and I have to mention for my last pro, and honestly for me it's the best pro I could think of. Unlike a majority of today's modern women, the female goblin doesn't really have unrealistic high standards. Of course, this goes for male goblins too in certain stories. But yeah, in most stories, goblins will get down with almost anything. And even found out in some stories that female goblins will breed explosively, giving birth to 2 to 4 babies at a time, and doing that every 8 months. So not as bad as a rabbit waifu when it comes to babies, but still pretty up there. But now tell me what you think. Is a goblin and hobgoblin waifu worth the risk? Or is this a pass for you? Tell me what you think in the comments. And you guys have a great day. Bye!